What's up, YouTube? It's me, Joe Schmo, and I am back with a longtime friend and someone you probably heard of in the Digimon circle. Look at them flapping their little thing right there. I am joined by TheDigitalHazard. Say hello, my friend.
Hello, guys.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, I guess just give us a feel about yourself in case people don't know. I mean, that's the best way to start.
Yeah, I'm TheDigitalHazard. I am a pretty much Digimon-focused content creator, Twitch streamer, Twitter poster. I tend to focus on Digimon as a content because it's my niche. I know the content, I know the market, I know like the demographic, and it's something I've enjoyed since I was like 10. So why not else?
And I will say, you really do. You are what some would call very knowledgeable, or a master in the field. Because every time I turn around, if someone asks a question, you pretty much already know the answer, and you can throw it right back at them. But I mean, well, congratulations on the new model, by the way, because you just announced this, and this is out not too long ago at the time of recording. So
yeah, so the model itself is a pretty niche sort of reference. It's the Digi-Beetle from Digimon World 2. It's the mode of transport you use. Digimon World 2 was a community splitter because it was a dungeon crawler rather than a emulator, and I fell in love with this thing from the get-go. It was so much fun to see. It was so much fun to use, and the model is made by a VTuber called Vika the robot. They were fantastic with it. I gave them 2 JPEGs and a PS1 intro, and they came back with this. And it was ungodly. It was amazing piece of work.
Yes, 2 pictures and very blocky intro. That's called a masterpiece right there. But I mean, I don't know if people really know who you are in your community. I mean, I know you've been streaming for what, like almost a year, 2 years now? What is it? You've been streaming for a while, but I don't know if there's any Digi lore out there, you know? So I want to dive into it. I want to start where it all began, how we met. Let's start way back, because we have known each other since what, 2018, 2019?
Yeah. So I first met Joe Smo under the banner of Mobile Gaming News Network. It was a mobile gaming news outlet project spearheaded by a guy named Shotgun Shogun. He brought mobile gaming players together in an attempt to sort of aggregate all the news together in one location site with handwritten articles. And it was there I met Joe Schmo, as like a few other creators. But in terms of like that community, it shut down about 2 years into it, just through various consequences and such. And it's very difficult to keep up with things. You imagine how much it takes to run like 4 to 5 gachas and keeping up with all that new information at once. But no, Joe has been like a linchpin in the community. He kept us going. He always had that positive vibe about him. And yeah, he's one that's kind of stuck around since, while everyone else has sort of meandered and sort of spread away.
Yeah, the only people I've really talked to left from those days are you and 12, who's become a mod in my community and stuck around, and God knows, he's the one that made me realize it was been 3 years on my end. And then Shogun, Jason. I talk to him still here and there, and we meet up in conventions and stuff. But I mean, honestly, like, you're right. I mean, it was a nice time. I really did enjoy mobile gaming news. I mean, hell, Daiko's stuck around. She's become a part of my thing, like, pretty much. And it was thanks to Digi, who held on to the original JPEGs and stuff, that I was able to at least incorporate her into my own thing. But it was fun. I did really enjoy the whole time we had. And it was a fun time. It was a lot, especially since, I feel like mobile gaming's still niche, especially in the North America side of things, and maybe in the UK and European side as well, but there were people willing to do it, but not a lot of people willing to back it up,
Yeah, obviously it was mostly supported by Shogun, and yeah, it's a difficult one to sort of support, especially this day and age. People are much more curious and sort of questionative of gacha, microtransactions, and mobile gaming in general doesn't have the same sort of mystique to it now, because mobile gaming is kind of moved up there to the same quality as console gaming almost.
Mm-hmm.
You see games like Genshin Impact being released across the board and kind of maintaining that user base. So it's not as much of a niche anymore. It's not as interesting, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's still there, and and I try to bring this up during that. I mean, mobile gaming includes handhelds, and that's what I try to bring. I tried to start doing game reviews. So we could talk about that stuff forever, but we're more here to focus on you. So what I want to know, after Mobile Gaming News Network basically fell apart, what gave you the drive to start streaming?
So after Mobile Gaming News kind of, as you say, sort of shut down, I had no interest in content creation, and in the years riding up to what I did, what the choice I made, I didn't really think that much of streaming in general. Like my friends were more into it. One particular friend I would speak to every day, and they'd show me these streamers. I kind of didn't really care. It wasn't until I took more of a look into it, and I started watching streamers who were playing the games I was playing. And I watched one particular streamer because I always thought, like, I don't have a studio, I don't have like my room for, can't do that. And I watched this one streamer who was playing as Elaine, a game I still play, and they were playing it in their living room with their family, and it was basically on no mic mode, and just conversating, kind of chatting when he could with his family in the background. And I thought, if this guy is going to this length to stream his content, he wants to share this with the world, he wants to share his opinion with the world on this game, then I have no excuse. Like, I might as well give it a go. And it was literally that night I downloaded, at the time, Streamlabs, because that was the easiest I heard of. And I just basically clicked go like 2 days later. And, yeah.
And it's been a ride ever since.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had a bit of a springboard. Like, my start was not that of your sort of 2 to 3 viewer, 5 hours. I had a springboard because I had friends, I had family who were willing to pay in what I was doing, and even some of the old mobile gaming popped in, helped boost up the early number, and got me to like exactly where I am today.
So, I know you're a big fan of Digimon, obviously, because of what's happening right now, right in front of my eyes. But what intrigued you about Digimon? What made you go, this is what I like? Especially compared to, like, there's Pokemon and stuff from our childhood. I know for a fact from my childhood, the late 90s, there was Yu-Gi-Oh! Or late 90s, early 2000s. There was Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon. There was Digimon. I mean, I saw it here and there. It wasn't, big for me. I mean, there was Dragon Ball Z. There was, oh lord, different. I remember Duel Masters being on TV. Like, all this stuff. What made Digimon stick out to you?
Initially it didn't. I'm trying to think of what the first anime I saw was. And it may well have been something like Pokemon or Sailor Moon or something along those lines, like on Fox Kids or CITV in the UK. But for me, I still remember like the adverts we saw on TV for Digimon, and Pokemon had broadcasts like 6 months prior. Like, that's when they started. And I wondered, this is Digimon, that's Pokemon. Maybe they've got like a Digidex, maybe they have like Digiballs and all this sort of thing. And then it started. I'm like, oh cool, it's Pokemon, but just more hardcore. It's like the fights are flashier, the monsters are bigger. Everything's just like less fluffy and cute, and everything's a bit more serious. Which, leading into my sort of edgy teenage years, definitely sort of like resonated with what I wanted to be and who I thought I was a lot more. As Digimon progressed from like 0-1 to Adventure, so it's an Adventure 2 to Tamers, and the video games as well. Whereas Pokemon was like a few stints on N64. Digimon had PS1. It had Digimon World 1, 2, 3, Rumble, the card battle game. So it had like more graphically intensive experiences. And that was much easier to really get into, really vibe with. And I didn't really enjoy the Pokemon card game as much as the Digimon card game, because the as I say, were offering So I guess it was definitely more of an attraction to the general aesthetic, less cutesy, less sort of like best friends forever feel of Pokemon, and more sort of you're my partner through thick and.
Mhm. So I mean, I get that general appeal because I mean, plus like Pokemon, it feels a little kiddish, and from what I've seen from Digimon, it has a little bit more of a mature, a little bit more older. I wouldn't say, let's say Pokemon would be like how they do whatever your P7 or T7, I forget what the rating is, but basically young. But I would say like maybe Digimon would be focused for like 10 years older, 10 years and older. Like it holds like, you know, that range where if you understand life a little bit more, you can get the message a little bit more. Does that hit that better? Or?
Yeah, so like the cast of, you look at the cast of the original Pokemon series, you had the main three and some extras. There's no incredible like family dynamics like being displayed, whereas in Digimon in the main cast you had an adopted kid, you had two kids split by divorced parents, you had a spoiled brat, you had a traditionalist daughter, or the daughter of a family that caused her to sort of suffer some social issues because of that.
Mm-hmm.
You had a kid who was so overprotective of his sibling because of mistakes he's made, and a kid who was being pressured by his parents. Perfect. So you had these like 7 to 8 examples of different upbringing straight away. So the family message there real quick. So there was someone for a lot of people to rather just. And obviously, I don't dislike Pokemon. I do enjoy the franchise quite a bit. But with Pokemon, the characters were sort of, they were bland. You had the main sort of gotta catch 'em all kind of guy. The girl who was the girl, she was a tomboy, and Brock, who was questionably the best sometimes. But yeah, so the cast immediately resonated, such as of issues, this variety, parental disfigurement show off straight away. So you had all these kids who could immediately say, oh, you know, that kid too, that kid got, his parents don't live together kind of thing. So yeah, the cast straight off the bat, even in the base series, was straight off with that diversity.
So what I want to ask next, since we're on the topic of anime, and because, you know, Digimon's an anime, Pokemon's an anime, what got you into anime, and more so, well, you just mentioned it, the first anime, but what made you stick to it? Because I know a lot of people grew up watching Pokemon, grew up watching Yu-Gi-Oh, grew up watching Digimon, some older ones, Sailor Moon, Voltron, all that stuff. But what made you sit there and like still enjoy it to even this day? Like, what made you go, all right, anime's pretty cool, I enjoy it, and you know, I might show it, you know, to my future kids and stuff like that.
It was definitely the overall content. So we had robots, we had action sequences, you had romance, you had just much more like grown up themes. In anime, I wasn't really interested in a lot of live stuff at the time. I also had like an anime group I met, and I'd go to every like second Thursday, I think it was, and we'd watch like fan subs and stuff that had been licensed in the UK. And this took place like under a church. Like we literally rented out church's basement to watch like imported anime. I don't know, I just enjoyed like the community of it, the vibe, the art style. I became quite literally infatuated with the art style over like I went full weeb, to be honest. I loved it. If it wasn't Japanese, and this obviously like blindly led into sort of like Japanese animation superiority and all that sort of thing, where I just sort of ignored a lot of Western because they were like ridiculous, like silly Western cartoons and that sort of thing, even though looking back at it, and I kind of missed out quite a lot of content. But no, with anime it was Gundam. Gundam was aired on it, so Gundam Wing, Star, Cowboy Bebop, all it is like cliche linchpin. I managed to get hold of some VHS through a company local to me, Planet, which dealt in that sort of thing. Some anime VHS, some like Dragon Ball Z movies. Before it became like really well broadcast here, drain of broadcast random channel. But no, I was definitely so I just latched onto it, and I loved everything about it: the art style, the animation, the explosion, silly voices, the dubbing, all just fell into place. It was just something like this, and it was me for like, well, since then to now.
So you mentioned Gundam, you mentioned Cowboy Bebop, which everyone knows Cowboy Bebop is one of my top 5s all time. What are you, if someone came to you and said, hey, which are the older kind, and I say older kind, but which of the classics would you recommend? I know you talked about Gundam and Cowboy Bebop, but are there any other ones that you would bring up and just like say, hey, try this out, I think that you might like it?
Of the older lot, I'd probably say something like Outlaw Star. Outlaw Star was a fantastic series. I really enjoyed the characters, the cast, the fights. It was a very similar vibe to Cowboy Bebop, but had just more action set pieces, more aliens, more varied sort of character models. Gundam Wing was the one I saw originally, and that was sort of it. Dragon Ball Z, obviously. But I was quite sort of throttled onto what we had in terms of like long running series. Fist North Star was another great series. That was super ridiculous for its fights and what was happening, the action set pieces. And that was another one it was like one of those kind of shows you could just watch and just like, this is all ridiculous, but I'm just loving every second. But there wasn't really that much variety at that point, especially in the West. In like, if you didn't have access to the internet, you really couldn't access a lot of the good stuff. So I was sort of restricted. Zoids was one that we kind of picked up. Chaotic Century and Zero, I think it was. They were great series, but they were a little bit messier, a little bit sort of more shonen focused rather than being a bit more explorative.
I'm still trying to. I find it funny that you guys ended up renting a basement of a church to watch anime. Because around here, the southern like Bible Belt is where I live, and they are still not as welcoming of the idea of anime or Japanese animation, because whenever they talk about it, they bring up the stereotypical, like, you know, basic fan service all over the place. You know, it's flashy colors, it's supposed to be sexualized, all this stuff. So I'm really surprised that a church would allow you guys to rent a basement.
No, I don't know the actual ins and outs of the type of church. It was down as a Methodist church, so I have no idea what that means. But I think they were more than happy just to, like, because it was a function room, so we would rent it out, we'd pay the bill, we'd cover the rent, and we'd just use it. All they'd know is a bunch of people would turn up and watch cartoons. They allowed us to have equipment set up there long term, so we had like some PC set up for gaming, some tables for card gaming. And as long as like everything was, sort of safety was met, and we had X amount of adults, because when I joined that club I was 14, 15 at the time, so I had to be chaperoned until I was 18, but luckily a family friend was also sort of into it, so he was essentially my chaperone until I like turned into an adult, and I was able to like chaperone myself. But no, they were more than happy. Every time like the staff would come down, they'd like, are you okay, do you need to lock up, and that sort of thing. And I think they were just generally quite happy to have people in the building, really.
Yeah.
They weren't really questioning what we're doing.
Good income. I mean, yeah, fair enough. And then keeping them kids off the street. That's another way, I guess, to look at it. Oh, Lord. So, when it comes to streaming, you always choose Digimon. I mean, you're a Digimon streamer. And I've seen you started changing up here and there. I saw you started doing Yokai Watch. So I do want to know what brought up that. I mean, I saw the little bits of Discord, you know, talks here and there, but what made you officially go, yep, let's do this. Fuck it. Well, I'll go ahead and do Yokai Watch. What was that pushing point?
So the reason I started branching out is because, one, Digimon content is finite. Bandai they don't release like 2 to 3 games a year. It's more like one every 2 to 3 years, if not between like 7 and 8. So a mixture of that, and there's quite a few other monster taming games out there with different aspects, different ideas, different just plans, different methodologies. And Yokai Watch was one that, when I saw it, it looked ridiculous. When I saw it being released in 2016, I was in awe of how abysmal it looked. Because the monsters, it just looked really silly. They didn't look very serious. They didn't look very scary. They didn't look any strong. There wasn't anything about them. Then I just learned they were just like Japanese yokai, but with the monsters you could catch. So I completely overlooked it. But this was something that bounced back from my community. So on the occasion that the subject was brought up in the community, in my chats, in my streams, I'd say, oh yeah, Yokai Watch looked ridiculous, you know. And they'd say, well, did you play it? I'm like, well, no. I'm like, oh cool, so you're saying it's ridiculous without actually playing it. I'm like, yeah, okay, now you say that back to me, I feel a little bit silly. So I said, right, okay, so, you know, here's a channel point goal. If you really want me to give it a shot, then I'll give it a shot. And it reached the goal within like a few days. So I was like, right, okay, cool. So I started venturing out and looking into different things, and the wonderful thing about looking into different monster taming games is you always get like a handful of people come in and they're so surprised that someone's playing like their childhood. It's like it's their monster game from their childhood. It's one that they played, like whether it's Yokai Watch, Fossil Fighters, Monster Rancher. It's like, oh my god, I can't believe someone's playing this game. I love this game as a kid. And you immediately then you've made a great friend, someone who you immediately have like a really strong connection with, because they're sharing something with you. It's something with their childhood. And nostalgia, I think it's very based in like simpler times, which is sometimes just a great little blanket to wrap around yourself to ignore the world. Just play something from when you were younger, when things were simpler and things were easier. And a lot of people sort of come together to share that feel with these old games. So yeah, we branched out to Yokai Watch, into Fossil Fighters, and I'm basically open to recommendations on anything monster taming like. Trying to look at older things rather than like, because I guess people have realised that monster taming games are popular, so there's lots of indie games coming out. Lots of like, you've got Nexomon, you've got Temtem, which are games I've sort of grasped and like sort of like scratched the surface on, but they're trying too hard to be like the next big thing, and I don't want that. I just want something that sort of understands that it's a bit silly, and Yokai Watch is definitely something that understands it's a bit silly, and I can just really vibe with that.
See, with Temtem, I like the fact there is a scaling. So my roommate played Temtem. I watched him play. I come in and watch randomly and come back and forth. But there's actually a difficulty scaling with it. As you get in, you can actually feel the difficulty. Unlike Pokemon, where, you know, especially in the early games it was hard, but now Pokemon's like gotten really easy. And all it takes is, oh, you need certain move set. All right, bam. Oh, now you're over level compared to everyone else. All right, cool. But as you keep going, the enemies keep scaling with you. Like, I randomly came in, he was at level 79, 80 with his Tems, or whatever they're called, and the opponent was like 84. Like, they scale up and the difficulty goes up, which is what I like. But one I think you ever heard of Spectroids? Spectrodes? I think it's
Spectrobes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a copy of it, and it's a copy of, it's a weird one for me. It's funny you mentioned that particular game, because I found that game one day in my house, and I don't ever remember buying it, but it exists in my house.
It was just there.
So I looked at the game case, I was like, okay, what the hell is this? I put it into my DS, and I booted up and like, cool, I don't have any save files on this, I don't know where it's come from, so okay, I'm never touching this ever again. But no, it's on my list. It's definitely one that's there.
Because I think that would be a really cool one, especially since you make them, not capture them. So, like, I think that would be really cool for you to experience. Because I remember playing it when I was younger, and there's lots of road trips going back and forth between a couple states away from where my family was pretty much settled in. So it was, I think you'll have fun. But I'm glad. Have you... I don't remember catching. Did you beat Yokai Watch, or are you still going with it?
No, we beat the first one.
Okay, are you going to go into the second one?
I took a break from the fact that the first one had a really frustrating recruitment system that I was verbally and quite audibly vexed about. So once we finished that, the last section wasn't that bad, but there was like a very, very quick sort of difficulty jump from like one part to the next to the next. There's like 3 to 4 of these difficulty jumps where it was very, very obvious that I hadn't done enough grinding. Which is again something on Yokai Watch which is quite difficult to do. It's not really built for grinding, but this might come because monster taming games are very odd to stream. Because as a streamer, you want to keep the content exciting, you want to keep it interesting, so you don't necessarily want to sit there and grind. So the onus is on the streamer to sort of get from story point to story point to story point, and possibly skip or kind of like jump through lots of options to gain experience. So you end up getting to parts where it's like you're under-leveled, and you either have to grind off stream, which is not really something that kind of vibes with the idea of streaming, or just have a grind session, which, unless you have a kind of a focused community or someone or a stable chat to sort of chat with you, a streamer can quite easily just sort of fall into a little pit of, well, this isn't very interesting, I'm not being entertaining, I don't want to do this, and it can kind of play in the back of your head. So yeah, we finished Yokai, and it was a lucky one. Luckily, my community had guided me to a few strong monsters, which definitely did sort of save the day. And yeah, without like 2 to 3 members who are quite vividly supportive of the game, like, because you get people who will join the stream who love this game so much they don't want this new player to have a bad experience, so they will do like what's called backseating, and they will sort of try to coerce the player to do the right things or the best things, whether they like it or not. It can get a bit frustrating, but I sort of respect their passion for them wanting me to have a good experience with something they remember having a good experience with.
So I will say your community is one of the better ones I've come across. I mean, for you sitting at, what are you, like 1.7 now, somewhere, something like that, K? You have you always have a constant viewing of 30 plus every time I take a look, but your community stands out because they're so supportive. I've hardly seen any negative stuff when I've been there. I'm not there 24/7 like you. But when I'm there, I never see anything really negative. I always see them being very supportive of you and other members in there. And and I get the backseating. Whenever you play something, heck, when I played Trail Cold Steel for the first time, I had plenty of people coming in backseating. Which, I mean, cool, I get it. But they were assuming, well, it's a whole thing. I didn't realize Trail Cold Steel was the 5th or the 6th installment of a series. Because when I found it, people told me, no, you can just play it by yourself. I get it. I really do.
Yeah.
But I do want to give your community credit, because they're one of the ones that, like, they're one of the better ones I've come across. And I'm sitting there with Asmon Gold. I'm sitting with XQC. I mean, I've sit there with Shogun. I've sit with these big communities, but your community has stand out as one of the better ones to come across. And I mean, that comes with the streamer itself too. I mean, you're a very good streamer. You're very talkative. You're very engaging. You keep everyone intrigued, and I want to give you the credit that you're due, because you are doing a great job, and especially in this niche. Not saying niche, because it's not like you're playing some like brand new indie development games or anything like that. You're playing established series with established fan bases, and you're able to actually keep those people there, instead of once you're done the game they just disappear. You deserve the credit you need, which is why I'm saying all this. I don't know where I was going with it, but I'm giving you props, I guess.
No, I appreciate it. I agree. My community is fantastic. It's made up of people who just love the franchise, and they I guess they appreciate Digimon for warts and all. There's no game that's perfect. There's no game that is completely flawless, and we've all come to agree on that one. We've all come to terms with. I think the best example was there was a very popular YouTuber recently who dove into Digimon as a first, and they asked the community sort of what game would be best to play, and the community just basically said, this is good, but, or maybe try this, but, and they're more than happy to say, look, we love this franchise, we love this game, this media, but that there are some trapdoors, there are some flaws, there's some problems. And my community is made up entirely of people who have sort of broadened that gap, and I do love them for it. They're absolutely fantastic. They've been there for me, even through a few like personal struggles I've had. Now, I don't like getting too involved in that sense, because I feel that, like, as much as I am a streamer and as much as I am who I am, I'm more a vehicle to sort of deliver an experience to the fandom, to people who may not maybe they can't play the game, maybe they don't have time or the resources to sit through this game, or maybe they just like seeing someone enjoy something they enjoy. Sometimes it's just fun to watch other people play games. It's not something I ever understood, because I'm the older brother to a younger brother, and he would just sometimes just want to sit there and play games, and he just want to watch me play games, and I never understood it. It took me literally decades to understand the entire idea of maybe just watching someone else have fun is fun. And no, these guys are fantastic. They're open. They're worldwide, which is something I found phenomenal. Like, I've got guys from like Florida, Singapore, Kuwait, just literally the five corners of the planet, and they're just so nice. They're so fun. They're so entertaining. They're so supportive, and sometimes just having them chat with me as well is just as good as having them just being members of the community.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too that I never really thought of until recently, that once you get going and people find you and like you, it's all over. Because I mean, a couple of my mods are over in the UK. I mean, I have friends and people who watch me from Japan. Of course, I got people from all the United States that watch me. I mean, it's one of those things that streaming opens that mindset of, okay, so people from all over are coming to watch me. And I get the definitely sitting there watching stuff, because when I'm the youngest of my brothers and sisters. So when growing up, I'd sit there and watch my brother play on his Xbox 360. That was like the biggest thing I remember sitting down. We also played Diablo on his PC, but that's when they were big, bulky things with like, they maybe have a 12-inch monitor, but the back was like 36 inches. You know, they got to put all that in there, so you try to hover over each other trying to watch this man play Diablo. That didn't work. But once, you know, the 360 and stuff came out, I was really intrigued, because I had a Wii, and well, you know, all the shovelware doesn't make a very interesting playing experience. But I remember sitting him watching, playing Call of Duty. He played like SOCOM, he played like Kung Fu Panda, played all this other stuff. So, like, I totally get the idea of watching people. I mean, hell, I do it while I'm at work. I sit there and watch people. I watch you when I get a chance. Like, I get it. But what I want to ask you, if you could try and convince someone to get into Digimon, what would you say? Like, why would you come watch Digimon? I know we talked about the different aspects of family and, you know, getting the family ties and stuff. But I'm specifically talking about the video games. Like, if there was one to start with, what would you recommend and how would you describe it?
I would always tell people to start with the first. It gives the best sort of idea of where the game is, how the game started, and what the game needs to do. It's exactly where the people need to start. Just Digimon World 1, just PS1, standard, vanilla, no mods, no guides. Just go and start and see where we started, and sort of get an idea of the franchise from that point. And yeah, it's really the best place for it. I mean, you can move on to different ones later on, but to start the series, to get a proper idea of exactly what's happening, definitely start with the first one. There's no question.
Alright, in that aspect, I want you to give me, do you have at least 5 favorite Digimon? And who would you put in number 1, who would you put in 5? AKA, give me a list and can tell me why you like them.
Oh god. This is always a popular one. This is always like, it's really difficult for people to sort of just flat out say. In no particular order, because I can't do orders. I can't say there's one epitome Digimon that I love the most. There's obviously Lilithmon, who is the Demon Lord of Sin, of Lust, sorry, Demon Lord of Lust. They're all based on 7 Sins. So she's obviously like quite similar to Lust from Fullmetal Alchemist, if you know it. Then there's, I guess, Kanandramon, who is a large, long neck sort of Brontosaurus Digimon with 2 huge railguns. He's just so massive, it's ridiculous. He's also quite fun. I'd say Metal Greymon, which is a bit of a weird one because it's not War Greymon from Adventure. Metal Greymon, I think his evolution and his part in Adventure had the biggest like moment for me as a kid. Like I was physically stood up, like, you know, fists clenched, watching this episode when he defeated Etamon. and it was just such a turning point in the franchise for me. So it's Lilthmon, Kanjamon, Metal Greymon. Obviously, the obvious one is Guilmon. Now, Guilmon, the little red dinosaur from Tamers, was born at the series. He was like the first legitimized OC Digimon, which was wonderful to see. Is like a character's original content becoming a Digimon in the series, which is his whole thing. And he was like the owner of what is the TheDigitalHazard, which is like a symbol he bears. And then I guess if I had to pull a fifth one, because there's so many. There's 1,000 at least, maybe 1,300 now, I think. Geez, I'd have to say something like, I think actually no, Gundramon. Gundramon is he's a dragon Digimon, literally made of guns. His entire body is just gun barrels. His face is gun barrels. His hands, gun barrels. His wings, gun barrels. His toes, gun barrels. And he is a fantastic example of, yes, Digimon is silly. Because there was that meme where, like, it was a dog evolving into a fridge with a Gatling gun.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah. And it's very much embracing that, yes, we are aware that this is a dragon made of guns. We don't care. It's a dragon made of guns. It's cool. Have fun, guys. You know, it doesn't have to be super serious all the time. You don't have to have these realistic creatures. You know, you can just have a dragon made of guns.
You can sit back and have fun.
Exactly. You can have these fallen angels. You can have these little immature dinosaurs who just love bread. You can have dinosaurs made of guns or dinosaurs made of fire. Like another one is there's a Digimon called Flareezamon, who's just a little lizard made of fire, but he's not made of fire. He's on fire. His skin is constantly combusting and healing so rapidly that he is in eternal pain and he's in eternal rage, and he's just a champion level Digimon. So there are like 100 Digimon strong than that, but he's just chilling out. He just exists. He's just there. He's
just there. He's just there to be there.
You've got some wild ones, and I just love the diversity. They don't have to be pinned in the realms of reality. You don't have to worry about, like, you know, can this monster eat? How does this monster, like, just like, how does he exist? How does he drink? Don't care. It doesn't matter. They're Digimon. They don't exist. There is unboundless creativity. They're not bound by the concept of like physiology, organisms, gender, anything. They're just Digimon. They just exist. They're just cool.
So you brought up with Metal Greymon how that was one of you remember that moment distinctly in the anime. Are there any other moments, like video game moments or anime moments, that you like stick to and you're like, this is what really drives home that I'm glad to be a fan?
There's one particular fight I had with my brother on Rumble Arena. I mained obviously Guilmon and Galamon, and he mained Agumon. Now Wargreymon was very strong. Wargreymon was much stronger, but my brother was literally 7 years younger than me, so he wasn't very good at the game. Galamon's attack, his final attack, was his shield blast, which basically fires a large beam from his shield. It's very telegraphed, and if you double jump at the right time, you can miss the entire thing. The good thing is, though, or the problem, depending on how you see it, is his guard, his blocking move, is kind of similar animation. So I would ham it up with my brother, and I'd say, "Oh, this is the last one. I'm going to finish you with my next attack," and I'd hold guard, and then he would double jump in the air, and then I'd use my attack, so he'd fall into the shield beam. So that was definitely a great moment from my time playing Rumble Arena with my friends. In terms of the video games, they never do big things. There was a big, at the ending of Digimon World 2, there was a massive like rug pull, which, spoiler warning for the next like 10 seconds, you're in the Matrix, and you're playing a character who is like locked into a simulation. So you've spent 30 hours in a simulation of something trying to like maintain the human race. So that's kind of wild.
Jeez.
In World 3, there's a fantastic moment where a computer virus leaks into the real world and infects a warship, which then transforms the warship into Destromon, and he then wipes out an entire fleet of Navy. I assume Japanese Navy. But yeah, that's like something like at the time it's like, oh, that's really cool, and looking back it's like that was thousands of people they've just killed.
That was a genocide they just committed on these people. All right, cool, fantastic.
But no, the games are more like clutch wins, like just suddenly winning, getting the super, getting the crit, or just like winning in the last second with the skin of your teeth kind of thing. So there's no real sort of like clinches. It's mostly player based. It's your experience, not the game sort of showing you here's something flashy. It's your experience. They're very much what I like to call water cooler games. Which is like, you can have two people play the same game at the same time and then bump into each other at the water machine at work and go, so how was your night? And you both tell the complete different stories about the same game.
So, speaking of that, because I know a lot of the, like you said, a lot of the early Digimons are like that. But what about, how would you compare the newest one? What is it? World Survive, I think it was? The light novel one. That was like really heavy on the light novel aspect.
Survive was definitely, yeah, Digimon Survive was definitely an experience for the community, because we had heard what was happening. Like, we heard about Survive, we heard it was an RTS. It wasn't until like Digimon Con, the event a few weeks prior to its release, that they told us it was 70% dialogue, 30% gameplay, and it's like, oh, that's not going to be good, because like some of us are a bit more sort of patient, I guess. And others are like, where it's not going to be like Cyber Sleuth Hacker's Memory. It's not going to be like full of animation and characterisms and fights. It's going to be lots of talking, and lo and behold, it was lots of talking. Now, I did enjoy the talking because I enjoy stories as much as I do gameplay. And Survive told possibly the best story a Digimon game has told us in years. It was a fantastically deep story. It was like a really mature story of development, personalities, struggles, and death. And in little amongst this was like a bit of gameplay. Now, I do believe it could have been released as a light novel solo. They could have completely ignored the gameplay, because the gameplay was mostly irrelevant. It was like, it almost felt like the idea was a light novel, and then they thought of, oh, let's nail some Sudoku every few pages. But in terms of like, if you were really interested in the lore, there are some really interesting points. Especially there's one point in particular in one of the like 4 or so endings, which literally remaps the entire ethos of what Digimon are. But it's so locked away. It's literally like 2 lines of dialogue, which to your average like fan was just like nothing in particular. But to some deep lore fans like myself and some friends, it was like game changing. And yeah, no, it was a problem. It was a problem game because people didn't stand it. It caused like a massive backlash, which is like, I didn't want it to cause a backlash, because I didn't want the developers to think, oh no, they don't like Digimon anymore.
Yeah.
So it was the game that made me reach out to Bandai directly, and then the game that they came back to me with. Now, I'm not a big creator by any chance, but the fact that Bandai came back to me made me feel that either they're willing to branch out, or they're a little concerned themselves. So maybe they want some allies in the field. And I was honest. I played the games. I appreciated the faults. I appreciated what it was doing. But yeah, it was a big step in a new direction, and I'd like them to carry on that direction now that people know what it is. I don't think it'll do very well on its own, like as a mass thing. But it was good. It was good, but it was very badly marketed, I think.
So, since you brought up Bandai reaching out, I want to talk about streaming moments. For me, I got reached out by a couple people. I mean, during mobile gaming, I got reached out by a couple indie developers that wanted me to review their games. I personally would love that. I even got out. I'm good friends with NetherRain Studios, which they're a small indie company, but I get updates and I play their games all the time. So, since you've been streaming, I know that might be a big moment for you, if you want to talk more about it, is Bandai reaching out. But if there are any other moments that like stand out to you, like I'm glad I started streaming, like these are some of the moments I'm going to keep looking back on even when I'm done. Is there like any of that stuff that's happened?
Yeah, there's been a handful of moments. It's one of the weirdest things that I really enjoy, and one of the things that it doesn't seem very big, and I'm very sure the viewer doesn't realize they're doing this. But when I'm ready to start streaming, and I've got my pages open like 10-15 minutes before I start to go live, and there are people there. There are people in my chat room waiting for me to go live. That is such an incredible sensation. Like, whether they're sometimes they're chatting, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're making fun of me testing things. Like, I'll be testing out some bots or testing out some commands, and they'll go, "Oh, look, Hazard's trying to work out like his new toy." And that's one of the big ones. There was Bandai, there was Koei Tecmo, Team 17 are some fantastic people I've worked with. But yeah, no, chatting to like one of the guys that in the Bandai PR team was a big turning point for me. It was like a point where I realized that I'm doing something. That I'm moving somewhere. This is now becoming a foundation for something. And but no, yeah, it's definitely that. Having Twitch staff, I've had one stream where Twitch staff turned up in my squad, and they turned up my stream because like that particular member had played the game I was streaming, and I had to look up like what the little spanner, like the little ratchet wrench in their title meant. And I was like, what is that? That's not mod. That's nothing. And then like, I read it was staff, and I was like, oh, and like my blood ran cold. I was like, why are they here? Oh my god.
One of the scary moments.
It was like I tried to treat them as like a normal guy, like pretending I didn't know him, while internally like trying to work out what I've done wrong.
Internally screaming and praying nothing goes wrong.
And then this is the time when like big streamers come by, like big speedrunners, big streamers. They come by and they say, "Oh, like good job, crack on, keep on trucking." But no, it's because I guess because I'm not sort of like one of those high energy guys, I don't get those like massive moments, but I don't mind not getting them. It's the slow burners, it's the fun, or it's making people laugh, and people like clipping things I'm doing and my reactions, and just the general vibe of it. Just like I enjoy streaming every time I boot stream. Like so many times I've come back from work like. Either I'm ill, the little girl's ill, or I just don't feel like streaming. I'm like, But then like someone pops up in my Discord and says, "Oh, what are you streaming tonight? Like, looking forward to tonight." And I'm like, "Oh, I have people waiting for me," and that's like one of the biggest sort of droplets of uranium in my engine. I guess I can imagine. And it's just that sort of slow burning support. Those little things. It's the little things. Like yeah, sure, you can have people come into your stream and drop like a couple of thousand bits, and I appreciate every single one of them. But sometimes just someone sat there going like, I enjoy your streams. Just the little things, the little likes. I actually had one. I've saved a screenshot of the message. I can't share who it is. But I saved a screenshot. Basically, I raided someone, and they sent me a DM after their stream. Thanking me, saying that today was going to be their last stream if no one turned up. They told themselves, that they're not doing very well. But we all rocked up and we all just dropped our remotes, and they're still going now. They're still streaming. They've built up a little bit more of a thing. But just knowing that I've sort of kept them going, I guess. Just again passing on the love, dropping a bit of the fuel, and just powering someone else. It's just been a fantastic moment, and I think that is definitely one of the big ones looking back.
Trust me, whenever I've been there a couple times, I will admit, and I've told my mod team about this. I said there's been a couple times where I'm just like, I don't feel like it's achieving something, because there's those days that sometimes you don't get the good outcomes or like the good viewership. There are some days, especially when you're starting out, it's kind of like, do I keep on doing this? Do I do it for me? Do I do there's a lot of things into it. But when something like that happens to me, or if I am able to do that to someone else, that's like, I love doing it. If I could just spread joy, That's all that matters. Because a lot of the people that I end up rating, I end up following and still popping in from time to time and checking on them and, you know, going and watching it. And I know it's a big if it was a big push for me, it might be a big push for them, you know? And, like, that's why I'm glad that you were able to at least experience something like that. That's, like, an actual, like, amazing moment. And I'm glad they were able to at least share that with you and be like, thank you for giving me this push. Like, that's... I agree. It's the little things that, like, as a streamer, it's those little things that are the big stuff, you know? Someone gives me $100 or, like, 10,000 bits. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do from the bottom of my heart. But you don't need to do that to make me happy, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes they have to. People seem to think to make a streamer feel good, they need to drop, like, you know, the big dollar. But no, sometimes it's just, you turn up 3 streams in a row and you're like my best friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you've come in once, you've seen who I am, you've seen what I do. You come in twice, maybe to see if something's different. But the third time, you're well aware of what I'm doing and you're still here. It's like, that means just generally so much to me as a content creator.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's such a small thing that's just so big.
God, So, one of the things I want to end on is, is there anything that you want to, like, do or, like, try to, like, do in the future? Are there any plans you want to divulge or give teasers at for your community or anyone who ends up watching this? Do you want to drop little tidbits or talk about any plans of the future?
I have 2 big goals in this. When I started streaming, I didn't have any. I streamed as sort of like a just rolling and seeing what happens, just pushing, just rolling a potato down the hill and seeing what happens, kind of thing. But now I've gotten this far. I have 2 goals. The first one is sort of the most achievable, is to build something myself, a game, an idea, a project. I have a few plans for it. I want to make an RPG, a Digimon RPG, where instead of, like, having the Digimon be Digimon, I'd like for the Digimon to have classes. So you could have a little red dinosaur who's a paladin, or a little a fox lady who's a monk, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to mix those old Dungeons and Dragons classes with Digimon and create a world like that. Now that's something I have to look into RPG Maker for, which is a big project, to be honest. The second one is the biggest one, and that is to not only, well, it's kind of already started. It's to get the attention of the people who make the things I like, so Bandai, but to get the attention to a degree that they not only reply to my emails, but they listen to me and they read. Mm-hmm. Now, there are other creators doing very similar, and we're working to create a large voice, and hopefully getting the attention of the real high-up people to show them we're here, we love this, please just give us things to do, give us things to buy, but, you know, I just basically want to get their attention. Mm-hmm. I want to get in their books, get on their attention, and ideally, I'd love to be like a UK representative for their anime stuff. That's, like, I guess, a pipe dream, a dream of dreams. But in the short term, I'd love to just get their attention and give my direction of what I think they could do to help bring back Digimon to the forefront of, like, monster training media.
I mean, you're already achieving that. You got them responding to you, reaching out to you for certain things. You're already making waves. I will say that. And then, like you said, there's a group of you guys starting to get together and do it. It's gonna happen. And I definitely would like to see this RPG, and I'd definitely throw my hat in the ring if you need a beta tester or alpha tester if you so desire. But, I mean, I'm pretty sure there might be plenty of people that are willing to get behind you with that idea, you know? I think that's very achievable.
it's just a lot of work to sort of get that started. And I think I started doing some sprite work for it because it's something else I'm teaching myself is how to draw and animate sprites. And that's something that's sort of taken off on the side. That's kind of Digimon related because it was Digimon that made me try it, but that's sort of taken off of its own stride. And really that takes up a lot of my time as well these days because people just want more of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I didn't realize I had these skills. I didn't realize people would want these things, and now I can do this. And yeah, people are still queuing up for it. It's just like, well, as long as people want it, I'm gonna keep doing it.
Well, Digi, I appreciate you giving me your time and your thoughts and your opinions. As always, my friend, I've really enjoyed the conversation.
I've enjoyed being here, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime. And whoever's watching, whenever you're watching, whenever, maybe tomorrow, maybe next year, next month, I don't know. But make sure you go check out Digital He's over on Twitch. He's over on Twitter. He does have a Facebook page, if I remember correctly.
I do, but
it's there, but he doesn't do anything. So feel free to harass him on there if you really want. Can't guarantee anything, but he streams multiple times a week. Make sure you go check him out, and it's pretty lengthy. He goes for 3 hours, 4 hours sometimes. So make sure you go check him out. But yeah, thanks again, bud. I appreciate you coming out and let me sit here and interview you.
No worries, anytime, Joe. Thank you.
But all right, until next time, guys. I'll see you all later. Bye bye.